Well, hello everybody. Good morning. Good morning. So it's been a while since I went live, and I was thinking about what I could possibly bring on my platform and I could possibly talk about live. And today I would like to talk about career change. And career change can be scary. Career change can be difficult, and um, a lot of people I hear a lot of people that wanting to change their career but they're not there yet, or they try to change their career, they try to get into different industries, and for some reason they're not uh, and they were successful. So as like kind of people coming in, let me just introduce myself. My name is Eugene Berezin, and um, the topic of career change is very relevant to me. Um, so here's a little fact about myself. I changed my career probably probably like three times. So my first career was a sign language interpreter, and then I got into therapy and counseling and mental health uh, services. So, and then from mental health services and therapy and counseling and case management, I jumped into tech. Even into tech, when I got into tech, I also changed the direction of my career in tech itself. So, um, switching careers, changing careers is really near and dear to my heart. And um, one of the things that hindered me in my career journey, especially in tech, is my misconceptions. What I thought about myself, what I was capable of, what I thought about how it would. What I would be able to do and accomplish in tech. So that's why I decided to share with you um, about misconceptions in tech. So, misconceptions that stop you from changing your career. First of all, we need to identify what misconception is. So, what is a misconception? Misconception is a thought or belief or um, an attitude or bias that is not based on facts. It's more like a thought when you think about it. It's more like a thought. It is not a fact. It might sound to you like a fact. For example, I'm an iOS developer right now, right? And when I was changing my career, or when I was thinking about getting into tech, I got into QA first, quality assurance testing software. And why? Because I had misconception that I won't be good at coding. I won't be able to learn how to code effectively. So it sounded like a fact, but like I have no evidence of that. What I didn't have an evidence of that whatsoever. It is a misconception that is not true. So it's just, again, it's just a thought, it's just an opinion that you think that you might be not able to accomplish, or you think how the industry is, or you think how other people can see you, but is not actually true. Misconception is quite limiting. So when we think about ourselves that we are not able to do something, or the industry that we are getting into is kind of difficult and challenging, or that we are not skilled, we are not good, we're not smart enough, it is quite limiting. And by the way, I will be using tech as an example, but like, it doesn't have to be about tech. You can apply the same principle to any career. So, like, if you're thinking about, like, I don't know, like becoming a lawyer, becoming a doctor, becoming a teacher, whatever you want to do, like, it doesn't have to be like tech necessarily, but tech is something that I can relate to. So, like, practical example, you can switch to like like your practical example that is relevant to you. Now, misconception. It's not helpful. It's not helpful to assume that that certain things you can or cannot do because you don't have an actual fact. It never actually happened, and misconception is quite toxic because it is limiting. You don't feel or good about, or you don't feel or think about yourself as a as a capable person. So it is. And it's limiting and it's not true. Misconception is a thought and not a fact, and it's certainly not helpful, and they're not based on facts. It's just based on our thoughts, what we think about ourselves. So now let's talk about like a really um kind of like a quick technique, so like how to help our misconceptions to be more like a thought rather than a fact, rather than a misconception. So a misconception: I'm not good enough for tech, the tech is not for me. It sounds really factual. It's not. It sounds really factual. Good morning, Dave. Like, thank you for coming in. It sounds really factual. A thought: I'm having a thought that I'm not good at tech. I'm having a thought that the tech is not for me. Now, like when we say it like that, that I'm having a thought that I'm not good enough for tech, or I'm not having enough skills for tech, it kind of hits a little bit differently, right? It's a thought. Thought can be true, or it cannot be true. Thought, it's just a thought. You have many thoughts, and not it's not necessarily that it is like that it's factual truth. It's it again, it's just your thought. So how misconceptions are formed. um so the the very reason for misconceptions and how they form is a lack of knowledge. People don't know something. People make assumptions. People make assumptions about an industry or about themselves based on a glimpse of information that they might heard somewhere from someone somehow, but that is not a factual actual truth. They simply don't know what is it like, and what the truth is. So the lack of knowledge, the lack of and like not necessarily education, but the lack of awareness of that career, what that they're possibly thinking about, and like they might assuming that they're not good enough. So I really want to talk really briefly about cognitive distortions. And cognitive distortions is a term from cognitive behavioral therapy. We're not going to talk about cognitive behavioral therapy or psychotherapy in this live stream in details, but our misconceptions and our cognitive distortions, they're kind of connected. And I dare to say that our misconceptions actually are our cognitive distortions. And what are cognitive distortions? Cognitive distortions are internal mental filters or biases that increase our misery, fuel our anxiety, and make us feel bad about ourselves. So earlier in the live stream, we were talking about what misconception is. Misconception is a thought or opinion that is not necessarily true. And we talk about that misconception is not helpful, it's toxic, and it is not based on the truth. So, sounds like a cognitive distortion to me. So, what type of uh, cognitive distortions or misconceptions we might have about ourselves, and especially when we're trying to change a career, or when we're trying to make a career move, and what is stopping us? I really want to go really quickly through them. We're not gonna go into details about each and every one of them, but it's like those misconceptions, how people might think about themselves when they're changing careers. And like really like cognitive distortions, they can happen like in any situation and in any circumstance. So black and white thinking, or all or nothing thinking. For example, I have never been good in at tech. It's all or nothing. And when people think that, oh, I'm just not good at tech, um, it is a general statement. What exactly you're not good at? Like, are you not good at like computers, or like you're not good at, like, I don't know, programming languages, or what exactly you're not good at? And like how do you actually know that you're not good at if you never, if you never tried? Jumping to conclusions or mind reading. People might think that I'm failure if I'm changing my career. Um, Sometimes people think that, like, especially if people were working in a industry that is like kind of meaningful, and um, they like what they were doing, but at some point it's time for them to make a move, to move forward with another career. uh, they think, okay, well, for example, I used to be a therapist, right? I used to work at behavioral health, and I very could think that people might think that I'm failing therapy and behavioral health because I'm trying to change my career. Something is not working for me. I'm not good enough as a therapist, so I'm going to tech because I can do my current job. But again, it's like jumping to conclusion. People might even not care about you, or not even think anything about it. Personalization. People won't take me seriously, or um, uh, thinking that something is my fault. Like, I'm not, like, it's my fault because whatever, like the project might fail and I think it's like it's my fault, or something happening, it's only because of me. So like when we take things like too personally, shooting, musting, or using very self critical language when we think about ourselves. For example, I should have a computer science degree to be in tech. And it is not tech, and it's not true. You don't have to have a computer science degree. Or another misconception that I hear from people: oh, I have to be good at math to be able to program and code and be in tech, which is also not true. Um, so when people uh, overly critical about themselves, overly critical about their abilities, mental filters, in other words, focusing on the negative. I'm terrible at learning new stuff. Like, um, again, like you're focusing on negative, so you might be try to learn something and it didn't work in the past, and you tried to learn it in not a productive, helpful way. So, and like now you have that mental filter when you focus on the negative. Overgeneralization. I will never find a job in tech. So it's very general statement. I will never find a job in tech. It might take a time. It might um, take some effort in interviewing and preparation, but like never. Like it may not happen today. It may not happen this month. It may not, like, for some people it may not happen this year, but next year, like, they really start their career journey. So like, again, overgeneralization. Magnification or minimization. So basically, it's when we are magnifying or focusing on negative and minimizing the positive. For example, some people just say, "Oh, I just know basic JavaScript. Like I can't, like, I won't be able to be a programmer. I just know basic JavaScript. Well, like, or like, I just know a little bit of HTML, or like, oh, I just try a little Python, stuff like that." But like think about it. If we're talking about switching career in tech, and you know basic JavaScript, so you're already like one step ahead of like everybody else, because not everybody knows basic JavaScript. Future telling. It is impossible to find a job in this market. Again, like, you don't know that. Like, the market might be going through some things. It might be challenging. Finding a new job is always challenging, but again, you don't know that. You don't know that. Comparison. When you compare yourself to other people, for example, all people are switching careers are young and talented. Like, again, like, different people switching career at different times, and like, it's not necessarily true. Catastrophizing. It's been a week since I started coding, and I still don't see the results, and I still don't understand it. Actually, I talked to somebody who started coding, and it's been a week since like they started learning, and they shared it with me, and they said, oh my gosh, I don't think that like the coding is for me. And I asked them, what do you think that, like, what makes you think that coding is not for you? Well, it's been a week that since I was learning Swift, and I still don't understand it. And it was kind of laughable for me, because like, well, it took me a long time to really get a programming down and to really understand programming. So people might catastrophizing things that are not really like, they're not really that bad. Programming is hard, and when it takes time to click, and it takes time to understand. Labeling. Some, again, like, some people say, oh, I'm just not a tech person. I'm just not a tech person. Or disqualifying the positive. I built a small app so anybody could do it. Or like, oh, I just followed that simple tutorial on YouTube, so everybody can follow a tutorial on YouTube and build a small app. So all of those are not helpful cognitive distortions or misconceptions about ourselves, and they can manifest in a different way, and at a different time. So, how to work with misconceptions? How to work with misconceptions? It's impossible not to have them. We always gonna think or assume about ourselves something negative, and negative thoughts may come up. Cognitive distortions can come up, but it's really important to know how to address them. A very good tool about working with misconceptions is fact checking. So if you think that you're not good enough for tech, if you think about that you're not good enough for something, you have to fact check. You have to try to do it, or you have to do your research. You have to fact check. So verify your assumptions, verify your misconceptions. And also, like, when we talk about like career switching or making career move, it's really important also to know your core values, because sometimes when we say that I think, or I am having a thought that I'm not really good enough for tech, it's really not about your abilities, and it's really not about you necessarily. It is about your core values. And when you think about future career moves, it's really important to know why you want to switch your career, why you want to do something, and how your core values might look like. For example, you might have a value to provide for your family. I just want to make more money, and that was the case for me when I was thinking about switching career. That was my one of my core values. I want to make more money. Like, behavioral health, does it pay enough? Or like working as a like case manager or a therapist, does it pay enough? I can really fully support my family in doing that. So I want to make more money. I want to do something meaningful. Also, like, I had people reaching out to me and say, "Hey, I'm working like whatever. I'm working just in retail. I'm not doing anything meaningful. I would like to do something more meaningful," or they're not finding that meaning in their job that they're currently doing. Some people might have that working in tech or working in certain career is their dream. Like they might say, "It is my dream. I really want to do that. Like it is my dream job." You can have your own reason, and it's really important when you think about a different career that like sound appealing to you. Check your core values and see what resonates with you, like in that career. And it also helps you with your motivation, because if you don't have that in your core values, it's really hard to find motivation, and it's really hard to move forward. So now we are going to actually work with a thought that sounds like that comes from a misconception. I'm having a thought that I'm not good at tech stuff, and we are going to fact check, and we are going to face each fact and work with each fact and analyze it, and see if that thought is actually true or not, and what you can actually do in each and every situation. Because when we're changing career, when we're switching to a new career, we will or we might experience certain things like that. So let's start with I'm not consistent with my studying. Um, so, um, and again, I'm using tech as an example. And when you are learning how to code, when you're learning new tech stuff, or when you're learning anything, and if you are not consistent, one of the core reasons for that might be that it may not be in your core values. You're consistent because you don't know why you're doing that. Like I know people who started learning programming just because it is cool, just because, oh, like it's cool, like, oh, it sounds interesting, but they didn't have that in their core values. They don't know why they're doing that. That's why they're not consistent when they're studying. Now, some people might say, "Well, I am not like the tech is really not for me. I think I'm not really good at tech because coding doesn't interest me at all." So, and for this, it might actually be a fact. You may like, and it's okay not be interested in coding. So, first of all, check your core values. And another thing is, and another, like, it's a really powerful tool to deal with your misconceptions, is to know your options that are available to you in tech. You don't have to code to work in tech. You can be a program manager. You can be a manager, like an engineering manager. In fact, I know engineering managers that like don't have a computer science degree, or they don't know how to code. So I know a lot of managers like that. Um, QA, like they're manual QA who don't necessarily have to code a lot, or when you do, like, QA means quality assurance, or when you go to for quality assurance, you might have to code, but you don't have to code as much. So even if coding is not your strongest interest, like their options might be in tech that are available to you, and it's important to find what resonates with your core values and what resonates with your interests, and maybe you can find your niche in tech. So now let's go to I think I'm failing at coding. And I hear that a lot. I think I'm failing at coding. So what does it mean? And my question for them is, did you study right? Did you do it right? So when we talk about studying, it's really important to know the resources that are available to you. Do your research. Like all our misconceptions, all many our cognitive distortions are coming from lack of knowledge and lack of actual facts. So if you don't know what you need to learn, and I hear that from people who choosing to do a self-taught route, especially. So find a community, find resources, ask people what they learn, and like learn about technology that you are trying to get into. And also another mistake that people make with coding, people start learning a programming language for the sake of programming language, and it's a very big mistake. Yes, you do need to know the basics of a programming language. For example, for iOS development, to build apps for iPhones and iPads, you need to know Swift, and you need to know Swift fairly well. But the purpose of you knowing Swift is to building mobile apps, to building apps for iPhones and iPads. Like this is the sole purpose of that. Or some people jumping on trendy programming languages like Python, for example, or JavaScript, and they don't really do anything with those languages. So if you're learning a programming language for the sake of programming language, you're wasting your time. Because imagine you're learning Italian, or imagine you're learning Spanish and you never use it, you never speak it. So you might recognize words, you might be able to read, but you will never advance, you will never find that progress, you will never be good at it because you're not using that language. And like kind of sidetrack on the language learning, like, and that's a lot of people say that they're not good at languages because they're trying to learn the language and they're not speaking it, because the sole purpose of a language is communication. If you don't communicate, if you don't use your language, if you don't use very little knowledge that you have, like, you're wasting your time. Like, programming language meant for communicating and building a product or a mobile application, a website, you name it. And if you don't do it, if you don't apply it practically, like, why are you doing that? So ask yourself before you jump on Python, or before you jump on JavaScript, or before you jump on Java, what do you want to do with it? Don't learn a Java or Python or JavaScript just because they're cool. Learn because you want to build something. You want to build a website, or you want to build like a tool, like you to automate something, like whatever it means. So, like, really important to have a purpose for programming language, and knowing your resources, and like, but consistency is the key. Make sure that you're studying right, and if you're studying right, um, over time, like, you will get better at coding. So now let's say you are at the place where you start interviewing, and a lot of new developers are um, saying that I can't get any interviews. And in fact, about a year ago, a person reached out to me on LinkedIn, and he was learning iOS development, and he was practicing and building apps. And he said, I just can't get any interviews. And I asked him to kind of send me his resume. And I also looked at his LinkedIn. And the problem was that that person, he did not demonstrate that he knows iOS development at all. So there are no keywords on that LinkedIn profile. There's no experience that, like, he building apps, or there's no reference to his portfolio. So we had a conversation where I advised that person that it is important to have a resume, and even if you don't have real work experience, like, make your studying apps that you're studying your production apps, deploy them into the app store, and put them in your resume, put them in your LinkedIn that you work on them. So it's not the same as you work at Google necessarily, but it is, like, you are demonstrating that you have work experience, that you have that necessary knowledge that people are looking for. Now, you might get job interviews, right? You might get job interviews, but you can't pass them. I can't pass a job interview. Um, like, Interviewing for a job is a separate skill. You might be a good iOS developer, you might be a good web developer, but you're not good at interviewing. So it's a separate skill that you have to practice separately. And it's important to know what kind of questions you are asked. Algorithms and data structures. So if it is your weak point, practice that more. And I know, like, for many people it's really difficult, but it's possible to improve it. No, analyze your every interview, analyze your every interview that you uh, fail, that you got a rejection from. So either it's your, maybe it's your years of experience, maybe you didn't answer something correctly, maybe there was something else that didn't go right. And ask for feedback at the end of at the end of the interview. No matter how you feel it went, like, it's important to ask your interviewer, like, hey, how do you think I did? Like, can you share, like, whatever you can share with me, like what I could do better? And you will be surprised, people are willing to provide you feedback, people are willing to, like, people want you to do better. So but let's say you're good at coding, so you know how to code. You get interviews, you pass your interview, and you get a job, and it's your first job, and you got fired because you made a mistake, or because somehow they figure out that you're not good enough for that position. And it's hard, and it might be heartbreaking, and it's important to remember that your first job, your first paid job, and your first job is a paid internship. So if a company fires you from your first job because they think that you're not good enough, it's not really on you, it is on them, because they didn't really interview you right to find out what you can actually do at a job. And it's not unheard of. And I see that sometimes companies will hire very junior developers for very senior tasks without providing any support for them. So, some companies, let me say it again, some companies will hire very junior developers to do very senior tasks because they don't want to pay for a senior developer, and they don't have support for a junior developer, and they want them perform uh, as a senior developer, and it's not realistic, and it's not going to happen. Some people are good at it, some people are able to figure out, and they just go with the flow, and it's good. But if it's not you, it's paid internship. um, One important thing to remember when it comes to, like, employment and termination of employment, for example, let's say you got fired, um, or like let's say you get in a pattern when you are getting fired consistently from your job. First of all, it's really important to, like, check your, like, again, core values. Like, is it interest you? Is like, maybe you're not performing well enough because you're not interested in it. Maybe there are, like, knowledge gaps, or maybe like, know your options. And when you go from job to job, or when you get into the industry, keep your eyes and ears open and see what other people do. Maybe coding is not for you, maybe project management is for you. So, and if you notice certain trend, if you notice certain trend, um, do self-analysis, see, maybe, like, maybe a different specialty is good for you. uh, Fortunately, I did not have that experience, but I did indeed switch my specialty. My first job and my first, like, what, two, three jobs, yeah, they were ill related to QA, to quality assurance. And later on, I work with iOS team building mobile apps, and I came to the conclusion that building mobile apps is really what inspires me, and I don't want to do QA anymore. And, like, I didn't have to get fired or anything like that. I just decided to switch my um, my specialty and market myself as an iOS developer versus as a QA engineer. So, and like that worked for me. So, let me summarize what we were talking about here. When you are switching to a new career, when you are starting a new professional journey, it's really important to check your core values. Like, do you want to do it? Is it in your realm of interest? Do you know why you're doing this? Because if you don't have reason why, it's really hard to stay motivated. Know your options. Coding, like for example, for tech, coding is not the only option that is available to us. There are other options that are available to us. There are other professions. There are other fields that are available to us in tech, and I'm sure it is also true for any other industry as well. Get resources that you need. Like do your research and get your resources, because you it's easy to jump and learn something, but if you don't know, if you don't have connections, if you don't have enough information, it's hard to succeed at learning and getting into new industry. So do your research, network, connect with people from the industry, learn from them, and it will set yourself for success. Be patient with yourself. Uh, People often on the internet say, hey, like coding is easy, anybody can code, anybody can do X, Y, and Z. But like to be good at something, you need to spend time with it, you need to practice, and you need to do it over and over and over again. Yes, studying coding might be not as difficult, but it takes time to be good at it. It takes time to learn that skill. It takes time to master that craft. So it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen after 3 months of a boot camp. It doesn't like look. Sometimes it doesn't even happen after a year. After a year, you might be able to code something. You might be able to put something together, but like to be good at it, it takes time. So be patient with yourself. And if you on your journey to a new career, you decide that it's not something that you want to do and it's not something that interests you, and you want to do something else, like in tech or outside of tech, or maybe go with a completely different profession, and it's okay. And it's okay. And it's better to know what is not working for you and what is working for you. Another point that I kind of miss is to embrace your failures, and I'm kind of struggle with that a little bit because on the one hand, like I really don't like using negative language. Like, and failure is a negative language, and if I were like with like in coaching session with myself and in therapy session with myself, I would ask myself like, how can we rephrase failures? Like, well, we can say failures is our lessons. Embrace your lessons. But in tech, failure is actually a good thing, because in tech, you want to fail early, not necessarily as professional, but like as a product, right? You want your product fail early, so you know what you're doing wrong, so you're not wasting your time. And it's in real life, it's the same thing. You want to fail early to discover what is missing, to discover what is broken in the process, to discover what you can improve. So don't be afraid that something is not working for you. Don't embrace your failures, embrace your lessons, and after each take each failure as a lesson and analyze each rejection, each failure, and see what you could do better. Because uh, in tech, for example, it is impossible to be successful 100% of the time. It's like you will fail, products fail, companies fail, and it's really important to learn from it and do better next time. Well, I really hope this live stream was helpful. And if you're thinking about career change, I really hope this video and this presentation like really help you to think about what you want to do, and really helps you to um, think about your misconceptions. So if you think that you're not good at something, it may not be necessarily true. It may not be necessarily true. It's really important to do uh, thorough analysis with yourself, try it and fact check it and do your research. And then you can make informed decision if something is for you or not. I really appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for coming to my live stream. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, y'all.